shots. Get ready, get pumped. Dear traveler, and welcome. Here we are back again. Today I've got an exciting episode. I want to pit against the Canon 5D Classic, the original, the greatest. You've heard about this camera. You know about this camera. And I'm going to pit it against the Olympus E500. That's right, the E500 with the magical Kodak sensor. Now, I've been asked this question in the past, and I thought I'd make a video of it because I think it's a fantastic question. I really do think it's a fantastic question. Which would I choose? They're great cameras, they're at a bargain price, and they both have pretty magic sensors, so which one would I choose? Or which one would I suggest someone get? So let's dive right into it. So I've just put up a page where we can check the two cameras against each other. Crazy thing, they both came out at the same time. I think it was 2008. Don't quote me on it, but I think it was 2008. Let's go with 2008. Okay, so the Canon's bringing in a 13 megapixel full frame sensor. Okay, we all know it's the full frame, the 5D classic. Fantastic sensor. The Olympus, on the other hand, is an 8 megapixel 4/3 sensor. Now, you might be thinking there's a discrepancy there of the megapixels. The Canon's better. Just know that 8 megapixels is plenty enough. 8 megapixels is plenty enough. You're not going to have any problems with that. And just talk to an Olympus fangirl or boy, and they'll tell you how amazing the 4/3 sensor is anyway. So don't be scared off by that at this stage. Now, they both have a 2.5-inch fixed display, so the displays on the back are pretty similar, give or take a little bit, but they're about the same. ISO is where you start to see a difference between the two cameras. So the Canon 5D goes all the way up to 3200 ISO, whereas the Olympus sits at around 400 but can boost to 1600. Now, all that being said, you've got to already know going into this, you're going to run these cameras at super low ISOs. You're going to be sitting at 100, 200, 400 would be max. I'd be pushing it at 400, but I'd be sitting on these cameras around 1 to 200 because they're old cameras. I ain't going to push them. Now, the Canon 5D has an 8,000th of a second shutter speed. That's pretty amazing. I don't know what it is on the E-Volt. It's something, right? I'd say it's probably 2,000 or something like that. It's usable. It's usable, okay? It's usable. Both cameras don't have video, so they're very similar. They came out same time. Very similar cameras in a sense. Now, I'm going to say that the 5D is set more towards the prosumer, pro end of things, and the Olympus is more the enthusiast, they were priced accordingly. It is what it is. Actually, they were 2005 cameras, released in 2005. Maybe the Canon actually came out a little bit after the Olympus, if I remember correctly. But hey, hit me up in the comments. Don't really remember. I think it's not really important. I don't really think it's important at this stage. Now, the Canon's coming in at 895 grams. She's a heavy one, right? She's a heavy set girl. I got no problems with that whatsoever. I think that's fantastic. The Olympus is coming in super lightweight at 479 grams. She's light. She's plastic. It's not built as tough. It's not built as durable. It's not built as professional, can I use that word? But it's plenty enough. It's the good kind of plastic. It's tough. It's not going to give you any troubles. No, at this stage, I'm not seeing a major difference, right? Both of the cameras are coming in hot. They're coming in strong, and I wouldn't have any issues at this stage. Okay. We're looking at sales stats. No one really cares about that. One thing that's different is that the Olympus has a flash, a built-in flash, whereas the Canon would never have a built-in flash because that's too amateur. The Olympus is decently smaller than the Canon 5D. That being said, it's not pocketable at any stage. So to me, a camera is either pocketable or it's not. There's no real in between. Oh, it's a small camera. Yeah, okay. Can you pocket it? No. Okay, so then you bring in a bag anyway. So if you bring in a bag, does it matter if it's a big DSLR or if it's not? To me, it doesn't really matter. It's not a deal breaker, but it is smaller than the Canon. So that's something to think about. What else have we got? The Canon is environmentally sealed. It's not waterproof. It's not dustproof. It's just environmental proof. So it can take a little bit more, I've had the Canon 5D. I've had it out in rain. I've had it out in dusty places. I've taken it to the beach, and it's never skipped a beat. Olympus, you know what? I've done the same thing, and it hasn't skipped a beat either. But I'm just saying that being the plastic probably wouldn't be as good as the Canon. But again, not a deal breaker by any means. Both cameras shoot 3 frames a second. So there you go. Okay. Sensors, the Canon is a CMOS sensor, Digic 2 full frame. The Olympus is a classic CCD Kodak Magic sensor. Okay, so that's awesome. Love seeing that. I think that is about all you need to know about these cameras. Just a quick few things. Canon 5D, I'm going to say the viewfinder is 1,000 times better than the eVolt, just in the sense that it's probably, a bigger percentage of the overall frame. It feels a lot bigger, things like that. You got to notice that difference. The Canon's just going to have the win. It's more professional. It's more set up. You can assign, back button focusing. There's just a lot of stuff. It takes CF cards. But then again, the eVolt takes CF cards and SD cards, and that's a real hoot. So dual sort of cards. Where was I? Now, I've told you about the stats. Okay, we've spoken about the boring stats. Now let's talk about my impressions of both cameras and really the important stuff that you should think about. Because everything I've stated so far isn't that important. They're just stats. And, Olympus people will be very quick to tell you that they can get amazing images and they can get images just as good as a full frame on their little tiny sensors. And the Canon crowd will tell you that the colors are unmatched and blah, 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 blah. Okay. So both cameras are extremely capable. That's what you need to know going into this. If you picked any one of these cameras, you're winning, okay? There is no loss. But which would I choose and why? Okay, the facts that stand out to me, that make a big difference to me and the way I use cameras, is that having a full frame sensor is awesome. And the advantage to that full frame sensor is that you can mount vintage glass and have the same focal distance. So you get an old, 50mm Canon lens, FD lens, or a 50mm Nikon lens, or a Pentax, a Takuma. You can put that on the Canon 5D, and it's going to be a 50mm equivalent, and you're going to be able to shoot it. So that to me is a huge upper hand of the Canon, huge upper hand. Get yourself a Helios and just let those colors and bokeh just go nuts with a full frame sensor. To me, that's a big win for the Canon. Okay. Now I know people say, oh yeah, but the Olympus people will say, I can get a full frame look from my camera by using speed boosters and editing and using tech. Yeah, you can. You can do all those things. You definitely can. But it's more work. It's more expense. For me personally, I don't see a point to it. Okay. Work with the strength of the camera, and I think the strength of the Canon 5D is that it's full frame and it's still cheap. It's relatively cheap. Okay. The other cool thing about the Canon 5D, and probably similar to the Olympus, is that those batteries that they use actually can be used in many other cameras. So that, if you've got a few cameras within that system, you might find the batteries are interchangeable. So that's always a really good thing right there too. So tick for both cameras on that one. Going back to the Canon, you got the full frame. So that's a big winner. That's a big up for the Canon, right? The colors of the Canon Classic are just absolutely astonishing. They're some of the most just beautiful, I would say paintedly. If I was going to describe the Canon 5D sensor, they feel like each image is like a painted picture. Should be up in an art gallery. It really feels like that. The colors are just so subtle and subdued, but somehow punchy at the same time. Oh, it's the Canon 5D is unmatched, I believe. No other sensor does what the 5D can do. But I would describe it as paintedly. It feels like a painting, which I think is awesome, right? So that's how I am. The other thing about the Canon that I think that works better than the Olympus, and I don't know how this relates to other Olympuses, if it's like the E1, might work okay, or the E300 might be better. But I find with the E500, comparing it to the Canon 5D, the Canon 5D's focusing is definitely quicker and more accurate. So it's quicker, which is obviously a big tip, and then it's a lot more accurate. 9 times out of 10, it's locking on, it's getting the accuracy, it's doing it fast, it's fantastic. Whereas with the Olympus, sometimes I'm zooming and I'm you know, or just trying to focus, and it'll look good on the back display. It'll look all in sharp, and then when you get it on the computer, it's just off, man. So I have been let down a little bit with the Olympus in that sense. So it's not faultless. Yeah, it's not faultless. It is a little bit clunky, and it's not quite as sharp. The Canon feels better in the hand, not like hands down. It feels like a pro camera, whereas the Olympus feels a bit like a toy kind of amateur camera. But hey, still takes great shots, so don't let that stop you from getting an Olympus. Now, talking about the Olympus, I've explained to you what the sensor's like on the Canon. Let's chat about the Olympus now. What's the strengths of the Olympus? That sensor, that little cheeky sensor on that Olympus, the images on that are just absolutely phenomenal, okay? The Olympus colors coming from that special Kodak sensor, the Canon I'm going to describe as paintedly, 100%. The Olympus, the colors, the rendition, the sharpness, the fall off, all that kind of stuff, it's not paintedly. To me, I would describe it as, it feels like you're looking at a memory. It feels like a memory. If you could pull up a memory in your mind of like a happy time, one of the happiest memories of your life, and it's just in that sort of, you know, super saturated, just a bit furry, but, you know, just packs a punch. That's what the Olympus looks like. And it honestly, some of the images I see from the Olympus almost make me emotional because of how amazing that sensor is. So don't get me wrong, it's a beautiful sensor. The other thing is Olympus make fantastic lenses for every camera they've ever made. Olympus, that's kind of Olympus's like hidden little trick. If you don't know much about Olympus, they make amazing glass, right? The issue is, at least where I live, that glass is very expensive, and it's getting more expensive by the day. I can't find cheap glass for my E500. I'm lucky my kit came with 3 lenses, and out of those 3 lenses, it's the macro, what was it, 35mm that I've got, the macro 35. That's by far the best lens I've got, and it's just beautiful, honestly. Little known fact, the Shutter Slaps icon, the picture of the X100F, that was shot with the Olympus E500 with the 35mm macro lens. Fantastic lens, and if you've got the patience and the money to buy some really nice Olympus glass, man, you're going to be in for a treat. Get a nice 25mm f2 or something like that, or 1.8, or Olympus have some crazy stuff out there, so you'll get some absolutely stonkingly good images. So that's a cool thing about Olympus. Now, the other cool thing about Canon is that you can get cheap glass. You know, even the Canon Nifty 50, it's a cheap lens. It's a very cheap lens. It's not going to set you back much. You could grab yourself a 50mm, like Helios, like I was saying, and Helios M44. Those lenses like under $100. Get a mount for it, bang, there you go. And all of a sudden you got a cheap 50mm lens. So that's like the advantage of the Canon 5D there. Which would I choose out of these 2 cameras? That's the money maker. That's the question we're asking here today. For me personally, I would pick the Canon 5D. If I had the 2 cameras in front of me, they were both the same price, I'm going with the 5D. Purely because autofocus is better and more accurate. I don't care about being fast. I don't care how long it takes to focus. I just want to know that I've nailed the shot. And with the Olympus, I find it's a little bit hit and miss. So I'll do it because of the autofocus being so much more stable in the Canon, the full frame, which just gives you so much more options with lenses and cheap lenses, and it's a really nice sensor anyway. It's a beautiful sensor, fantastic colors. So I would go that. Now let's dig a little bit deeper, but what if, hypothetically, the Olympus E500 magically grew a full frame sensor so that it had the same capabilities of the Canon 5D? Which would I pick then? I would then go for the Olympus, right? If that Olympus was a full frame sensor and the autofocus was a little bit better, should I say in English, I would go the Olympus. I think the Olympus in image quality actually beats the Canon, in colors beats the Canon. It's just in a camera that's just a little bit toyish, and it's a real shame. It lets it down. Now, if I found the Olympus for, you know, half the price of the Canon 5D, then I'd grab the Olympus. If you can get a good price on the Olympus, go for it. But I'm saying if they were the same price, I'd go the Canon, right? Whatever the price is, whether you found both of them for $100, $200, $400, $500, I'd pick the Canon. But if the Olympus was half the price, I'd go on Olympus, because they're such a good camera. So if you're thinking of which one to pick out of the two, that's my thoughts. I hope it helps. If you have any more questions, hit us up down below. Maybe I've missed something. What's your opinion? What would you choose? What would you choose? Let me know. Okay, guys, I'm going to leave it at that. And as always, I'll be catching you on that there next one.